Hello， 大家好，这里是赵孙。今天这期视频呢，又是一个英语的视频，因为这是我1年以来又一次录 book club。Yeah, the last time I made this video, if I remember correctly, it would be March 2021, right? But I swear I have been reading in the past year, especially after I moved to Dublin, because bookstores just became super accessible to me. But I'm holding some of the books that I read in 2022. Also, I have my new model of Kindle right here. So the first set of books that I want to talk about are these. It's by Richard Osman. I found out about his books at the end of last year when I was watching the Graham Norton show. So apparently Richard Osman is a very famous television personality in the UK. I didn't know about him previously, but just from that television appearance alone, I think, oh, he's pretty funny and clever, so maybe I should check his book out. And then like 2 days later, I was at a local bookstore called Chapter, and they have these two babies on the shelf. So I picked them up, but I didn't start reading them until January this year. From the title of the book alone, you can probably tell it's about murders, crimes, and solving crimes in general. But what I didn't know is that it's not the Thursday Murder Club in a high school, it's in a home, which means most of the main characters in this series are elder people, ranging from the age of 75 to 85, I would say. So in this series, it talks about marriage, friendship, companionship, life and death from the perspectives of elderly people. I'm trying to see if you can tell. Okay, so it's on the back of the book, so I can talk about it. The second one also concerns diamonds, so it was moving from like a small scale of small town murder to like a Hollywood movie type of thing. But I do like the first one better than the second one. It has so many unpredictable twists in the first one, and it's touching, moving at the same time. I definitely shed a few tears at the end of this book. The next one is called The Tiger and the Acrobat. That local bookstore I was talking about called Chapter was closed down at the end of the year, but it was bought by like a new owner in the beginning of this year, so they're gonna reopen soon. But at the end of last year, they were actually just selling out everything that they have. It cost me like €1 or something. Yeah, people say don't judge a book by its cover, but I definitely bought this one because it's gonna be the year of tiger in China, and I bought it because I'm a tiger as well, and I was like, this is cool, the tiger and the acrobat. So this book describes the life story of a tiger. Even a tiger was struggling with finding her own identity, finding her world, trying to fit in the perception of what a female tiger should do, should be, should feel. Yeah, also it's about sacrifice and friendship. I think the part where I cried was the part where I saw this. So surprisingly, this man there, that is not the acrobat in the title. That is just an old man, because obviously a tiger would not understand a man's name. So it's just the old man. Yeah, just reading the back of the book, I realized one of the most important things in this book is also about independence, because in the beginning of the book, it sort of talks about how her mother was setting an example for her on what a female tiger should be. And when it's finally time for her to get out of her mother's territory and become her own tiger, he felt like it's just not something that easy to do, which is something that I'm feeling because I've been an adult for 5 years. So a lot of the insecurities and struggles about being an adult can be found in this book. And it's pretty short, so if you can get your hands on it, I would definitely recommend it. And also because it was originally in Italian, probably you can also find like a version in Chinese to read this. I'm sure it was translated in Chinese. So after this book, I also tried to start reading Dune. I bought like the first 3 books in the Dune series, and no, I can't do it. Like, I would say sci-fi is my favorite category. From the next few books that I'm gonna talk about, you can probably tell. But no, I can't read Dune. I love the film Dune. I love it, okay? I watched it in an IMAX theater before it was even officially screened in Ireland. I loved that film, but the book, no, I can't. It's so boring. The next book I read on my Kindle. It's called Children of the New World by Alexander Weinstein. I found out about this book because there was a new movie out called After. I know you're supposed to call it After Yang because that's how you say young in English, but no, After Young, that's the right way to say it. This book is made of short sci-fi stories. After Young is the first story in this book, but my favorite one is actually Children of the New World. Hands down, it's one of the best short sci-fi stories I've ever read. So it's actually pretty common in science fiction where the author wants to talk about how science and technology advances can affect our common perception of family, friends, and love, those more human things. But Children of the New World sort of paints a picture of how people conceive children in the future. Although it is also a book that is made of short science fictions, it has a very different tone than Ted Chiang's Exhalation. That one was sort of about, the prospect, vastness of the space around us, or the beauty of life and love. But this book is just, we should not pursue technology. We should abandon internet because it's corrupting us from the inside. That's like what I was feeling after reading the book. The film sort of only took inspirations from the background, from the world building of that story. The story in the book only begins when Yang started to malfunction. And here comes the favorite book that I've read in 2022. It's called Project Hail Mary. Apparently this book was super popular back in 2021, but I only found out about it like a few months ago. And I started reading it. I just can't put it down. I read it on my Kindle, so I don't have like an actual perception of how long it is, but I think it would be like thicker than these two combined together. Even if you don't know who Andy Weir is, you must have known one of his other novels, The Martian, which is later turned into a film where we saw Matt Damon planting potatoes on Mars. Only after I finished Project Hail Mary, I found out that the film rights of the book was already bought by some film studios, and guess who's playing the hero? Ryan Gosling. Like when I learned that, I was like, oh yeah, he would be a great hero for the movie. But before that, when I was actually reading the book, I kept on picturing Ryan Reynolds' face. That sort of tells you something about the tone of the book. Like you look at the cover of it, you're like, okay, so this is a science fiction. It's gonna be serious because it's about space, and you see how that man is alone. It's about solitude. It's definitely a sad and serious story, but no. Imagine reading a book that was written by Ryan Reynolds. It's just that sort of satire and humor. And in the book, there are a lot of like interesting physics experiments. If you must know, I am very bad at physics. It's one of my worst subjects when I was in middle school. But I understood them. Like I said, it is a science fiction, it happened in space, and it was mainly just this one character. So what happens in the beginning of the book is that the character woke up not knowing who he is. So he's sort of looking for clues around his environment to find out that he's actually an astronaut, and all the other crew members on board are dead. And then during this puzzle-solving adventure with him, you later found out, okay, he's there on a mission to save the world. Like in the beginning, you just feel like, okay, so this is gonna be a very lonely adventure for the character. But then later, it's actually about friendship. Again, about sacrifice. It's about putting the greater good above of oneself. But in a very funny, interesting way. And surprise, the next book, also the last book of this video that I'm going to talk about, is also a science fiction. It's named Sea of Tranquility. I've talked about his book, The Glass Hotel, and Station 11 in my past videos because I love those books a lot. This is like her newest book that was only released in March 2022, right? I don't actually remember, but it's really new. And I really want to read it like immediately because I heard the rumors that the characters from The Glass Hotel and Station 11 are gonna appear in this book. And remember when she's promoting Station 11, she actually refused to describe it as a science fiction because she's like, that can actually happen. But this one, no, this is definitely science fiction. It's a time travel story. And like I said, the characters' cameos in the book are really good because I love The Glass Hotel and Station 11. I've read The Glass Hotel twice, Station 11 3 times. So when those characters actually pop up, I was like, yes, it definitely screamed like out loud. And then also, I love time travel. I also watched a Netflix film called Project Adam, The Adam Project. So a lot of the time travel movies or any fiction things that I've read or watched before are pretty cliche, you know, it talks about the same thing. If you can time travel, do you go back and make your decisions over and over again so you can live a perfect life? The time traveling element in this book is so confined, so it mainly focused on painting the world. And you might be wondering why the book is called Sea of Tranquility. In the world that she's painting, about 22,000, a large number of humans has moved to the moon and built the moon as their colony, and they even started to reach outside of our solar system to find new colonies. And it's also quite funny where she put the relations between the first story and the future one, because the first story, she sort of paints the picture in the beginning of 20th century about this young Englishman who's the second born or the third born, just not firstborn, and he was exiled by his family. So he was forced to move to one of the Englishmen's colonies at the time. So there are a lot of subtle connections between stories like that. And also there is this one character in the book who is an author, who is female, who wrote a book that is very similar to Station 11. So in that part of the story, she talks about her own experience with doing seminars, doing public speeches about the same book, about the same story over and over again. So a lot of play with time, with repetition, with decision making. It's a really beautiful book to read. So when Project Hail Mary is a very funny and interesting, upbeat story, Sea of Tranquility is a little bit peaceful and sad at the same time. A lot of people call Emily St. John Mandel a disaster artist, but I do think Sea of Tranquility is not as much as a disaster in the last two books that I talked about. Yeah, so I think that completes this video, and there are still a lot of books that I've read in 2022 or in 2021 that I haven't talked about yet. So in the next few weeks, maybe I'll find some time to talk about them to you as well. Hopefully that this video can act as an inspiration to you if you want to read more. So if you have a good read that you want to recommend to me or others, you can definitely leave a comment below. That completes this video, and I'll see you in the next one.